Byzantine, Christendom, and building on the Roman path. When we talk about the Byzantine Empire, we're talking about this eastern section of what had been the larger Roman Empire. When Rome falls in 476, Byzantium becomes kind of the heir or the caretaker. The western part of the Roman Empire is going to be permanently lost to Byzantium, despite the efforts of Emperor Justinian. Please know him. He was rather impressive, but it was a pretty short-lived attempt to reconquer the western section of the Mediterranean basin. The very rapid expansion of the Arab Islamic Empire in the 7th century is going to result in the lost areas of Syria and Palestine, Egypt, North Africa. But nonetheless, the Byzantine Empire, while it's very compact, remains a major force in the Eastern Mediterranean, controlling Greece and much of what is the Balkans and Anatolia. In its heyday, the Byzantine state's a really impressive creation. Everything politically is very tightly centralized into the city of Constantinople, where the emperor is going to claim to be governing all creation as God's worldly representation. He's both the peer of the apostles and the sole ruler of the world. They try to imitate the grandeur of what they thought was God's heavenly court. Speaking of wealth and splendor, since it's sitting between those east and west trade routes, Byzantium is going to benefit from that monetarily. It has a decidedly Greek kind of character, but it also has a lot of influences from its Persian neighbors. You see this in the officials wearing these silk robes and these really elaborate court ceremonies, and political power being centralized in the figure of the emperor, who's both the political and religious head of the empire. There are stories about the figure of the emperor and his elaborate celebration in court, where there's a mechanical throne that will rise him up physically above any visitors, and these mechanical lions that will roar. However, the empire, because of where it's at, is going to be under constant attack from both the west and the east, from about 1085 to when it falls in 1453. There are about 400 years of assaults from the west, such as Venice and these Catholic crusaders, and we'll talk about the split between the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholic faith. And then there's also the Islamic Turkish armies before Constantinople finally falls to those Ottoman forces in 1453. Intimately tied up with the state of Byzantium is its role with the church. We call this relationship pseudo-papism. Unlike Western Europe, where the Roman Catholic Church is going to remain fairly independent from the political authorities, in Byzantium, the emperor is going to be something of the role of both a Caesar as the head of state and also the head of the church. He chooses the patriarch or leader of the Orthodox Church, gets to influence doctrines, calls church councils into session, and generally treats the church as kind of a branch of government, just another department. Eastern Orthodox Christianity has this pervasive influence on the everyday aspect of Byzantine life. It legitimizes the authority of the emperor, for he's God anointed and a reflection of God on earth. And there's also this Greek influence. They see themselves as the right-thinking or orthodox version of Christians in Byzantium. The Greek influence also pervasive in the sense that there's this intense internal theological daily kind of debate. Your book talks about how, a 4th century bishop complains that he's just asking about the price of bread, and some dude's answering him, the Father is greater than the Son. And there's all of this kind of Greek theology that kind of gets mixed into the concepts of Christianity and also into daily life in Byzantium. This kind of feeds into the Orthodox versus Catholic divide that happens. The most lasting and deepest division within the Christian world occurs as Eastern Orthodoxy comes to define itself against the Latin Catholicism. Of course, both have the basic belief system and the teachings of Jesus and the Bible and the sacraments and the hierarchy in the church. But despite that, as the Islamic world expands during the 7th century, those earlier centers of Christianity in the Middle East and North Africa kind of get swallowed up. And you're left with Constantinople and Rome alone as these kind of two bastions / alternate hubs of Christianity. But now they're in different states, and they're competing with each other politically and economically. So it kind of feeds into a divide also within the belief structure. This is going to get even worse once we get into about 1095, when the Catholic popes of the western part of the European world launched the Crusade. This is started by Pope Urban II against the forces of Islam, but the problem is as Crusaders start passing through the Byzantine Empire on their way to the Middle East, they often come into contact and conflict with the local people, which kind of deepens that distrust. From the Western point of view, these Orthodox practices are very heretical. They're blasphemous. They talk about how they see these Byzantines are not really as Christians. They don't really think there's anything wrong in killing these Byzantine Christians, because Western Crusaders don't see a difference really between these Byzantine Christians and the Muslims that they're there to kind of go after. So you start seeing some rather barbaric activity. And it creates this kind of East-West divide between Westerners seeing Byzantines as heretics and the Byzantines seeing the Western Europeans as these barbarians. After this kind of event of the Crusades, the world of Christendom is truly repairable and bringing them back. And even today, we see kind of the Orthodox Church of the East and the Catholic Church of the West being very divided. Beyond its tense relationships in dealing with religion in Western Europe, the Byzantine Empire, where it's sitting geographically astride Europe and Asia, also is interacting intensely with its other neighbors. Politically and militarily, Byzantium continues a long Roman struggle with the Persian Empire. That constant conflict is going to weaken both of them. Although Persia quickly becomes part of the Islamic world, Byzantium holds out. It has these really crazy cool inventions. The one Greek fire, which is this potent, flammable combination of oil and sulfur and lime that gets launched from these bronze tubes, helps hold off the Arabs. It works kind of like a flamethrower. Eventually the Arabs and the Chinese are going to kind of absorb this technology. But Byzantium's ability to defend its core regions is going to delay the Islamic advance into southern Europe, which does eventually occur with the help of the Turkish Ottoman Empire in the 15th and 16th century. Economically, though, the Byzantine Empire is a central player in the long-distance trade of Eurasia, which links Western Europe, Russia, Central Asia, and the Islamic world with China. Its gold coin, the benzant, is a widely used currency in the Mediterranean for more than 500 years. And wearing coins as pendants was a high status symbol in the less developed kingdoms in Western Europe. The luxurious products of the Byzantine craftspeople, jewelry, gemstones, silver and gold work, textiles, purple dyes in particular, are hugely in demand. The silk industry based on Chinese technology is going to be supplying much of the Mediterranean basin with this fabric. The cultural influences of Byzantium are also really significant. They preserved a lot of the ancient Greek learning, and they're going to transmit this classical heritage to both the Islamic world as well as the Christian West. In both places, its impact on scientists, philosophy, theologians, other intellectuals can't be negated. Some see this as an aid to faith and an understanding of the world. Others see it as distracting. The Byzantine religious culture also spreads widely among the Slavic-speaking peoples in the Balkans and in Russia. As lands to the south and east are overtaken by Islam, Byzantium starts to look north to expand. By the early 1200s, steady military pressure has brought a lot of the Balkan Slavic people, especially the Bulgars, under Byzantine control. Christianity and literacy are going to accompany this Byzantine takeover. There are two noted Byzantine missionaries, Cyril and Methodius, are going to develop an alphabet based on Greek letters, which the Slavic languages can be written in. This Cyrillic script is going to make it possible to translate the Bible and other religious literature into these languages and really help give a boost to the process of Orthodox Christianity spreading. The most significant expansion of the Orthodox Christianity happens among the Slavic people in what is now the Ukraine and Western Russia. This culturally diverse region includes people of Finnic, Baltic, and Viking backgrounds, but there was a modest state known as Kievan Rus, named after the most prominent city, Kiev, in 800. Like most of the new third wave civilizations, the development of the Rus was stimulated by trade. This case along the Dnieper River, which links Scandinavia and Byzantium, loosely led by various princes, especially the Prince of Kiev. Rus is a society of mixed social classes, which makes it a third wave civilization kind of in the making. Religion in the area is going to reflect diversity of the area with all kinds of gods and beliefs and things like that. Small numbers of Christians, Muslims, and Jews are likewise part of the mix. But the growing interaction of the Rus with the larger world is going to prompt Prince Vladimir of Kiev to affiliate and choose one of the major world religions. He's looking for a faith that's going to help unify the diverse people of his region while getting an in with those wider networks of trade and communication. Chronicles are going to say that he considers Judaism, Islam, and Roman Catholicism, but finally decides on Eastern Orthodoxy, that he rejected Islam because the Russes loved to drink, and that the splendor of the Orthodox churches of Constantinople are what finally draw him in. Now, politically, there's also going to be some benefits. I mean, he does acquire a new wife, who's the sister of the Byzantine emperor, along with several Byzantine priest advisors. But whatever the process, it's important that you note that the Rus accepting Eastern Orthodoxy into their area is a choice. And it's a choice with long-term implications for Russian history, because it brings Russia firmly into the world of Orthodox Christianity and severs it from the worlds of Islam and Rome theologically. They're going to borrow heavily from this more sophisticated neighbor that they've aligned themselves with. So you're going to see evidence of Byzantine architecture, the Cyrillic alphabet, the use of icons extensively, and the monastic tradition stressing prayer and service. You're also going to see this more unified identity for this emerging civilization and religious legitimacy for its leaders. Centuries later, after Byzantine has fallen apart, the Russians are going to be the ones that kind of carry the flame of Eastern Orthodox through the modern era.